The new stimulus debate in America, the national conversation returns. In recent months, the topic of stimulus checks has once again risen to the surface of American politics. Seniors, families, and workers across the country have been asking the same question. Is a new $2,000 stimulus check finally on the way? After several years of rising living costs, expensive medications, and unpredictable bills, many Americans, especially older adults, feel the financial pressure more than ever. And once again, former President Trump has brought national attention to the issue. He has publicly suggested multiple times that Americans might receive a direct payment funded through tariff revenue. These statements have sparked hope, confusion, and skepticism all at the same time. For older Americans who depend on Social Security and fixed incomes, the uncertainty can be draining. They simply want clear answers instead of political noise. This script will walk through what has been said, what has actually happened, and what still needs to happen before any stimulus check becomes real. No exaggeration, no hype, just straightforward explanations designed for clarity. How the stimulus proposal restarted. To understand how we arrived at the current discussion, we need to look back at the series of announcements that unfolded this year. It began in July when President Trump suggested a $600 payment to Americans. That comment alone was enough to spark action on Capitol Hill. Senator Josh Hawley drafted a 14-page bill that proposed sending out rebate checks funded by tariff revenue, a type of tax placed on imported goods. But although the idea generated excitement, no legislative action followed. Washington moved on to other priorities, and the proposal quietly faded. Then in October, the discussion reignited with even more intensity. President Trump raised the number dramatically, saying he was considering $1,000 to $2,000 payments for Americans, describing them as a tariff dividend. The idea was that the government had collected significant money through tariffs and could redistribute a portion back to the public. The announcement was bold, and naturally it grabbed attention. But once again, no actual legislation moved through Congress. A possible government shutdown took precedence in Washington, and the stimulus idea was pushed aside. Fast forward to November, and the former president once again returned to the topic, this time with a more specific claim. He said he wanted to send out $2,000 payments before the end of the year, which quickly spread across news outlets and social media. Seniors on Social Security and disability were mentioned directly as part of the group that would qualify. 3 announcements, 3 surges of hope, but still no formal action in Congress. The funding source? Tariff revenue. One of the most important pieces of this discussion is the source of funding. The former president has repeatedly stated that the payments could be funded entirely by tariff revenue. Tariffs are essentially taxes placed on imported goods. Over the year, the administration reported the following revenue totals. January, $8 billion. April, $17 billion. July, $30 billion. September, $31 billion. Altogether, they estimate around $180 billion collected so far. Now, for many Americans, that sounds like a significant amount. However, the president also spoke about using that same money to reduce the national debt, support new tax cuts, and provide stimulus payments. When the national debt is more than $37 trillion, and when tax cuts require massive funding, $180 billion can only stretch so far. Financially, the government must choose what to prioritize. That is why Congress has hesitated, because the allocation of that money has not been clearly defined. This leads to an important question. Is stimulus truly the top priority? Who would qualify for the payment? Even though no official legislation has been introduced, we can examine what the president has said publicly about eligibility. According to his statements, the payments would likely be universal, meaning that nearly all Americans could qualify. He specifically mentioned seniors receiving Social Security, individuals living on disability benefits, middle-class households, everyday Americans who are struggling with rising costs. Unlike previous stimulus rounds, which reduced payments for higher-income earners, this proposal appears to aim for broader coverage. But because no bill exists yet, many critical details remain unknown. Would there be income limits? Would eligibility be based on the 2024 tax return? Would non-filers need to submit special forms? How would the IRS verify recipients quickly? Without clarity, the IRS cannot prepare a distribution plan, Congress cannot evaluate costs, and Americans cannot know where they stand. The three major obstacles. Before any stimulus check can be issued, three major hurdles must be cleared. These steps are part of the federal system and cannot be bypassed. 1. The Supreme Court must rule on tariffs. There are ongoing lawsuits challenging the legality of certain tariffs. If the Supreme Court rules against the administration, the government might lose access to the tariff revenue entirely. Without that revenue, stimulus payments would have no funding source. 2. Congress must pass an actual bill. Presidents cannot directly send out stimulus checks without Congress. The process would require a written bill committee review amendments, a House vote, a Senate vote, the president's signature. This process normally takes months. Even in urgent situations, the fastest Congress has ever moved on stimulus was during a national emergency, and that still required intense negotiations. 3. The IRS needs time to process payments. Even if Congress approves a bill immediately, the IRS must update computer systems, verify taxpayer information, confirm eligibility, prepare direct deposits, and paper checks. This takes time. Historically, even during emergencies, payments took weeks to months to roll out. This means a stimulus payment before the end of the year is extremely unlikely, simply due to the time required by the process itself. Is the administration treating this as a priority? One of the most telling signs of whether a proposal has real momentum is how often the administration discusses it. When presidents prioritize an issue, they talk about it constantly. They apply pressure publicly and privately. They keep the spotlight on the issue until Congress responds. So far, the pattern with stimulus checks has been inconsistent. A big announcement, a wave of public interest, followed by silence. Then the cycle repeats months later. This pattern raises doubts. Many seniors feel they have been encouraged to hope for something that never moves beyond public comments. The administration has acknowledged the idea but has not committed to a timeline, a detailed plan, or a legislative strategy. What the White House has said recently, when the White House press secretary was asked how Americans could trust that the stimulus would actually happen this year, her response was noticeably cautious. She said the president was committed to using tariff revenue to help the American people, but she did not offer any guarantee, outline, or timetable. Her answer suggested two things. The administration knows Americans are skeptical. The plan is not close to execution. For many seniors, this only adds to the frustration. They live on fixed incomes. They live in the real world where groceries, utilities, and medications cost more every month. They cannot afford political uncertainty. Realistically, what could happen? The truth is simple and honest. The idea of a $2,000 stimulus check is possible but not guaranteed. The earliest realistic rollout would be sometime next year, likely the spring of 2026, if Congress decides to make it a priority. But stimulus checks don't magically appear. They require political will, legal clearance, and legislative approval. Right now, none of those conditions are fully in place. The reality behind the stimulus promise. Why the stimulus story keeps coming back. Every time a new statement about stimulus checks appears, millions of Americans, particularly seniors, pay attention. And the reason is simple. People are struggling. Prices have gone up on everything from food to electricity, while incomes for many older adults have stayed the same. A $2,000 check could make a meaningful difference. That's why the topic doesn't fade away. In fact, it becomes more urgent each time it returns. But urgency from the public doesn't always translate into urgency in Washington. Politicians can make bold statements, big promises, or emotional declarations, but unless Congress acts, nothing changes. And so far, Congress has remained mostly silent on this latest proposal. Even though the former president brought up the idea multiple times, $600 in July, up to $2,000 in October, and $2,000 again in November, there has been no formal legislative movement. The inconsistency creates doubt. Seniors begin to wonder whether the announcements are genuine plans or merely talking points designed to gain attention. Public skepticism and the administration's response. Americans have grown skeptical because they've heard similar promises many times before. During an interview, a reporter asked the White House press secretary directly, "How can Americans trust the president to deliver this stimulus this year?" It was a blunt, honest question. Her response, however, was careful and general. She said the administration is committed to using tariff revenue to help the American people. But she did not say when legislation would be introduced, how much money would be used, who exactly would qualify, or whether checks would truly arrive before the end of the year. This lack of clarity suggests that while the idea is being discussed, there is no concrete plan in motion. For everyday Americans, especially older adults who depend on steady and predictable income, the vagueness is frustrating. They don't want political phrases or general statements. They want timelines, clarity, and action. Seniors are particularly affected because many live on Social Security, disability benefits, pensions, or savings that no longer stretch as far as they used to. A single unexpected bill, a medical expense, a utility spike, a home repair can disrupt their entire budget. And so, uncertainty becomes stressful, not just financially, but emotionally. The three competing priorities for tariff money. One of the biggest challenges behind the scenes is figuring out how to use the tariff revenue. The former president has repeatedly said that the administration has collected billions of dollars through tariffs. And that is true, about $180 billion so far, according to estimates. But he has also mentioned that he wants to use the same money for three massive objectives: paying down the national debt, funding tax cuts, sending stimulus checks. The problem is that $180 billion cannot accomplish all of those goals. The national debt alone is more than $37 trillion. Tax cuts require long-term funding. And stimulus checks, if sent to all Americans, would likely cost hundreds of billions of dollars depending on eligibility. Because of this, Congress needs clarity on what the administration truly intends to prioritize. Without that clarity, lawmakers hesitate. They don't want to commit to a plan that doesn't have long-term financial stability behind it. This is a major reason the stimulus has not advanced beyond talk. The funding source is not aligned with the promises being made. Why legal challenges matter. Another major factor slowing progress is the legal battle over tariffs. Several cases are currently pending that challenge the legitimacy of the tariffs themselves. If the Supreme Court rules against the tariffs, the government may lose access to the very money the former president wants to use for stimulus. This is not a small issue. It is fundamental. Without tariff revenue, the stimulus proposal collapses. Congress cannot pass a stimulus bill without a secure funding source. The IRS cannot plan distribution, and Americans cannot rely on receiving anything. That is why the Supreme Court decision is one of the key obstacles standing between the proposal and reality. Congress must still write and pass a bill. Even if the tariff revenue survives legal challenges, Congress must still take action. Here is what must occur before any check is sent. A new bill must be drafted, or the July bill must be revived. Committees must review and debate the proposal. Amendments must be added. The House must vote. The Senate must vote. The President must sign it. The IRS must implement it. This is a long, multi-stage process, and with only a short time left in the year, there is almost no chance that all of these steps can be completed before year-end. Even during emergencies, when Congress is highly motivated, the fastest stimulus approval still took weeks. In a normal political climate, bills can take months. That is why experts believe the earliest realistic timeline is sometime next year, likely spring of 2026, assuming Congress actually makes it a priority. Why seniors feel this most deeply. For many people, stimulus checks are helpful, but for seniors, they can be life-changing. A $2,000 payment could pay for several months of groceries, prescription medications, hearing aids or mobility devices, energy bills during extreme weather, car repairs or transportation needs, medical copays and out-of-pocket costs, or simply catching up on overdue balances. Seniors often don't have the option to work more hours or pick up a side job to manage inflation. They rely on fixed income that rarely keeps up with rising prices. That is why stimulus proposals resonate so strongly with older Americans. But it also means uncertainty hits them harder. When a politician speaks about stimulus checks without backing it with immediate action, seniors feel the emotional impact. Hope rises and then drops each time the topic surfaces and disappears. What you can do right now. While Washington debates. Even though the stimulus check is still uncertain, seniors can take practical steps today to strengthen their financial situation. These steps will help whether a stimulus is approved or not. 1. Keep IRS information updated. If any stimulus is approved, the IRS will send payments using your latest tax return, your latest mailing address, and your latest bank account information. If you've moved or changed banks, update your information now to avoid delays. 2. File your 2024 tax return. Many seniors believe they don't need to file taxes anymore, but filing is important because it updates your eligibility status. It ensures the IRS knows where to send payments. It activates tax credits or refunds you might qualify for. Even seniors without taxable income can benefit from filing. 3. Check state relief programs. Several states currently offer rebate checks, grocery assistance, utility credits, property tax rebates, or heating and cooling assistance. These programs are real and available now, unlike the federal stimulus, which is still only a proposal. 4. Apply for federal benefits. You may qualify for many seniors miss out on available programs because they assume they do not qualify. But programs like SNAP, Medicaid, depending on income, Medicare savings programs, LIHEAP, energy assistance, and property tax exemptions can save older adults thousands of dollars a year. 5. Beware of stimulus scams. Whenever stimulus checks are discussed in the news, scammers come out aggressively. Remember, the government will never call asking for your Social Security number. They will never ask for bank login information. They will never charge a fee to release your stimulus. If anyone contacts you claiming to help you receive your payment faster, it is a scam. 6. Stay informed but stay grounded. You should follow updates, but you should not delay bills or make financial decisions based on money that has not been approved. Plan your budget based on your current income, not potential stimulus payments. A realistic look at the next few weeks. Millions of Americans want to know whether $2,000 checks might come before the end of the year. The honest answer is, it is possible, but extremely unlikely and historically unprecedented. Congress would need to act immediately. The administration would need to put maximum pressure on lawmakers. Everyone involved would have to move at record-breaking speed, and at the moment, none of that is happening. The proposal remains exactly what it is today, a proposal, not a program. What this stimulus debate really means for Americans, the human reality behind the politics. While lawmakers debate funding sources, legal challenges, and legislative deadlines, millions of Americans are dealing with the real consequences of rising costs right now. This is especially true for seniors who rely on Social Security, disability benefits, or modest retirement savings. For a large portion of older adults, financial stress is not theoretical, it is daily life. Groceries cost more than they used to. Medications continue to rise in price. Utility bills spike during extreme temperatures. Home repairs become more expensive. Even small increases in cost can disrupt a fixed monthly budget. So when politicians talk about sending out $2,000 stimulus checks, seniors listen closely. Not because they expect miracles, but because that kind of financial relief could give them breathing room. It could help them catch up, get ahead, or simply feel secure again. And that desire for stability is why the issue resonates so deeply. Why seniors feel especially vulnerable. Younger Americans sometimes have options. They can take on more work, adjust careers, or pursue additional income. But for seniors, those options often aren't available. Health limitations, mobility issues, caregiving responsibilities, or age discrimination make returning to the workforce difficult or impossible. Many seniors depend entirely on fixed monthly benefits that don't rise at the same pace as inflation. The annual COLA increase for Social Security helps, but it rarely keeps up with real-world prices for groceries, medical care, rent and housing, property taxes, home energy bills, and prescription medications. This means seniors feel the effects of inflation more sharply and more consistently than other age groups. That's why every conversation about stimulus checks hits close to home. Why stimulus checks matter emotionally. Stimulus checks are not just about money. They also provide something equally important, a sense of being seen. a recognition that seniors matter, a message that the government understands the pressures they're facing. For many older adults, a $2,000 check could mean catching up on medical debt, paying for a dental procedure Medicare doesn't cover, replacing a broken appliance, fixing the car they depend on, paying for eyeglasses or hearing aids, covering property tax increases, or simply putting some savings away for emergencies. Financial peace of mind is powerful. It reduces stress, improves health, and helps seniors maintain independence. That emotional benefit, feeling secure, respected, and stable, is one reason stimulus proposals continue to attract attention. Why the pattern of promises creates frustration. Throughout this year, Americans have experienced a repeating cycle: a big announcement about stimulus checks, excitement across the country, a wave of media coverage, silence from Congress, disappointment when nothing happens. This isn't the first time people have heard large promises that didn't turn into action. Seniors have lived through multiple political cycles and have seen Social Security debates, Medicare reform promises, inflation relief proposals, tax credit discussions, benefit expansions and cuts. Again and again, many ideas sound promising at first, but rarely move beyond talk. The repetition creates skepticism. Seniors are especially aware of this because they follow these issues closely. They are directly affected. When the administration raises expectations but does not take fast action, trust is weakened. People want clarity, not confusion. They want results, not recycled announcements. The importance of public pressure. Even though Congress appears slow to act, the voice of the public still matters, and it matters more than many people realize. Lawmakers pay attention to what their constituents care about most. When phones ring, when emails arrive, when letters pile up, priorities shift. In the past, public pressure has played a role in accelerating past stimulus checks, expanding Medicare access programs, boosting food assistance benefits, reducing prescription drug costs, and delaying cuts to Social Security-related funding. The same could happen now. Seniors carry significant political influence because they consistently vote in high numbers. When older adults speak up, individually or collectively, lawmakers take notice. That is why contacting senators and representatives matters more than most people think. A single call is logged and counted. 100 calls become a briefing. Thousands of calls become a policy conversation. The economic outlook moving forward. To understand the future of stimulus checks, we must look at the broader economic picture. Several trends will shape the months ahead. 1. Inflation isn't gone. Even though inflation rates have slowed, prices remain high. Grocery costs, utilities, rent, and insurance premiums are still above pre-pandemic levels. Seniors feel these increases the most because they often spend a higher percentage of their income on essential items. 2. Medical costs continue to rise. Medicare premiums may fluctuate, but out-of-pocket expenses, prescription drug prices, and copays tend to rise steadily. Seniors face higher healthcare expenses simply due to aging and chronic conditions. 3. Energy costs are volatile. Heating and cooling costs may increase depending on the weather and energy markets. Seniors living on fixed incomes experience seasonal utility spikes more intensely. 4. The federal government faces debt pressure. The national debt is historically high. Many lawmakers oppose new federal spending unless it is fully funded, especially during election cycles. This creates tension around any stimulus proposal. 5. Political divisions. Slow down. Legislation Congress is more divided than ever. Even widely supported issues struggle to pass quickly. Stimulus proposals become more complicated in such a political environment. These factors make stimulus checks both appealing and challenging. The need is high, but the political and financial barriers are real. How seniors can prepare for the unexpected. While waiting for clearer information, older Americans can take steps to protect themselves financially and stay ready if stimulus payments do move forward. 1. Keep all IRS information updated. The IRS will rely on your latest tax return and bank information. If you've moved or changed accounts, make sure your records are correct to avoid delays. 2. File your taxes. Even if you don't owe, this ensures you are automatically included in any future federal payment. It also protects you from missing out on refunds, credits, or state programs. 3. Explore benefits. You may already qualify. For many seniors don't realize they could receive help through SNAP food assistance, Medicare savings programs, extra help for prescription drugs, LIHEAP heating and cooling assistance, state property tax relief, Medicaid for low-income seniors. These programs can save hundreds or even thousands each year. 4. Stay alert to scams. Whenever stimulus news spreads, scammers become active. They often target seniors specifically. Remember, the government will not call you for your Social Security number. It will not charge a fee to release a stimulus. It will not ask for banking or credit card details by phone or email. If someone claims they can speed up your payment, it is a scam. 5. Budget based on reality, not hopes. Stimulus checks are not guaranteed. It is important to plan using your current income. Avoid delaying bills, stopping payments, or making major purchases based on potential stimulus money. How the next few months might play out. The next few months are crucial. If Congress decides to prioritize a stimulus bill early in the year, several things could happen. A new bill could be introduced, negotiations could begin, eligibility rules could be defined, funding could be allocated, the IRS could prepare distribution systems. If all of this happens quickly, payments could theoretically begin in the spring or summer of 2026, but that timeline depends entirely on political motivation. Without strong pressure from both the administration and the public, Congress is unlikely to act quickly. A balanced and honest conclusion. After analyzing every part of this issue, legal challenges, funding debates, political momentum, and economic conditions, here is the most honest conclusion. A $2,000 stimulus check is possible, but not certain and not imminent. There is no active bill, no finalized eligibility rules, and no confirmed funding plan. This means the stimulus is still an idea, not yet a program. Seniors should stay informed, remain realistic, and focus on benefits available right now. At the same time, they shouldn't give up on the possibility entirely. Washington can change direction quickly, especially when political pressure builds. The best approach is to prepare for the worst, but stay ready for the best. A final mess. If you're a senior listening to this, remember this. You are not alone. Millions of older adults are navigating the same challenges: rising prices, confusing news, and uncertainty about the future. Your struggles are real, your voice matters, and your financial security deserves attention. This community exists to give you clarity, support, and honest information. As soon as anything changes, whether good or bad, you will hear about it immediately. Thank you for being here, for staying informed, and for taking care of yourself in the middle of an unpredictable financial environment.